I've got the tank filling up with water. So my one important job right now is to watch this hose, because when you get distracted doing things like putting filters together, you can't believe how easy it is to forget you're filling the tank up, and overflowing tanks is never the most popular thing you can do. So what I'm going to do now is I've got another canister, because trying to get the old one working was a bit of wishful thinking. Now, this canister's also got a UV sterilizer in it. So once a year, it's good to replace the UV. And because there's a fair bit of sunlight in this room, having a UV is going to help keep our water crystal clear. But when the tank's brand new and when the water is crystal clear, I do rather have the UV off, particularly if the canister's new, because I want to get the good bacteria in the filter. Now, the other thing I've done is I've gone and turned these around, because this filter fits perfectly in the spot, assuming that the taps are facing inwards. So that's going to go nicely in there, and that's the maximum canister that's going to fit in there, because this is a fairly large tank and we want the largest canister possible on this aquarium. Now, the other thing is that this filter comes with some pretty old school media. Now, the disadvantage of old school media is that this stuff grows nitrifying bacteria, which breaks high level waste into low level waste, so therefore ammonia into nitrate, therefore something we don't want into something else that we don't want. So what we're actually going to do is transfer the Marine Pure, because Marine Pure has a parallel denitrification that allows the formation of denitrifying bacteria, which should reduce our need for water changes. Now, whenever you get a canister filter or any sort of filter, it's really important that you take it apart, put it all together, and understand what's going on and understand how it all works. Because it's quite common that I'll sell someone a canister filter and then they'll come back and say it doesn't work. And that's because either it's got no media in it, because you didn't open it up and check it out, or the media is still in plastic bags. So whenever you buy a filter, take it all apart, check it all out, put it all back together again, and then we can understand it and maximize it. So this is a note for my future self when it comes to cleaning this canister. Now, this canister is basically the smallest size rated for an aquarium this big, which means I don't really want to put a smaller canister. So I've put a couple of house bricks down the bottom so this would lift up. So therefore I have a chance of cleaning it, because when I didn't have the house bricks, this went down too far and there's no way I could get it out while it has got 20 kilos of water in it. Now, what I need to do now is to mock up how I would get this out. So what I'm going to try, get this full of water, then I'm going to try siphoning water out of this this canister by putting a tube down the inlet, and then see if I can get the bulk of the water out so I can actually pull the canister out, because there's no way I'm going to be able to pull it out if it's got 20 kilos of water in it. Wish me luck. So I have this filter working now. She's pumping out a beauty. Now it's time to test, clean it. What I've got now is an airline going into the inlet, and I'm using the airline to drain the water out of the canister so I can pull the canister out of that position. Now, this is our gravel vac that we will be using every time we do a water change to clean the gravel as we do a water change. So in this tank we're going for cichlids, and we're going for a sunken shipwreck theme. Now, it's very common that I see sunken shipwrecks with fake plants, and there's nothing really wrong with that, but not many big old ships sink in rivers or lakes. So if you want to be a little bit authentic, you're probably better off having corals as your decorations with ships, because most ships are going to sink in the ocean, particularly around reefs. Now, these multi-fans are absolutely wonderful for fish protection. Now, fish like cichlids will breed a lot, and the babies actually use things like these fans as a nursery, because what happens is the babies get in amongst here, and it creates these little spaces where the babies can be, where the adults can't get access to them. So the adults will try to hunt the babies But because there's this nursery here, the babies can easily nip through the different layers of this fan and get on the other side of these partitions. So these multi-fans are really, really wonderful nurseries to let baby fish survive. And note to self, draining some water out of this made it relatively easy to get out of there. So I'll call that test passed. I can pursue, because I really was trying to avoid putting a smaller filter in, because even though the bigger filter would be a little bit more annoying to clean, it's not really that bad. And the smaller filters really have a smaller capacity. So I didn't want to put a really small filter in there and find that I have to clean it more often. So I didn't want the tank underfiltered. I didn't want to put an extra filter in the tank. I went against the idea of running the under gravel filter. So I voted the biggest filter to fit in that spot to be the best idea. And so far so good. But trying to pull that out completely full is not going to be ideal for two reasons. One is that when you pull it out, you could spill a little bit of water out. Second is it's pretty heavy. Now I've also got a selection of corals and shells to put in this tank. Once again, they'll make a beautiful little nursery, but over time these white corals do not stay white. So it'll look nice for now, but then over time, if this starts looking brown or green, or you don't like the color of it, then this is a very brittle coral. So I don't think this is going to be a long-term decoration. But for any of these sorts of corals, if you want them to go back to being a nice color again, put them in the sun for a day, and the sun should dry up the algae. Then turn it around, put it in the sun for a day, then hit it with a hose, and it should come up a lot better. Get a few of them in there for fun. One of those days. So this coral is a very old piece of coral, and I put it in the water and it decided to completely fall apart and float. So I'm not going to put it in there. Just a little request. When the power is getting put into this section, if I could ask the electrician just to cut off that would be great too. If I could get that cut off, and getting this in and out would be significantly easier. So that's sort of another note to self, I guess. Installing one of these fancy new Aqua L inline heaters, so we don't need the heater in the aquarium. Now, priming this is going to be a bit of a bugger because the filter's just there and there's a lot of line to prime. So we're going to need to basically fill a bucket before we consider the filter primed to get air out. Everything about this job is a bit of a challenge, but we can work out how to neaten that up. But currently this filter is pumping away beautifully. So the filter is officially working. So this filter is currently set at 27 degrees, which I'm happy enough with. And you can see that it's heating now by the fact it's doing that. So this heater is working. Now I'm going to put a thermometer in the aquarium. The thermometer tells us the temperature and the heater sets the aquarium temperature. Absolutely love these LED slim lights. What I'm going to do now is just snap that off so this sits nice and flat on the top of the tank. So while the filter is beautifully pumping away, we never want to be relying on one thing. So I'm happy with the filter. We're going to have to figure out how to hide that. It's not too bad. You can't really see it because of the way you view the tank, so it's not too bad. But we need something for oxygen. So what I'm going to do is put this power head. It's a magnet power head, so the suction caps aren't going to piss you off over time. I'm going to mount that to this end and blow it across the surface of the tank. So I'm getting plenty of surface agitation. And also with the top of the tank too, it's really important you don't have good fitting lids because you need oxygen going into the tank. So stuff like this is good where oxygen gets in. And then we've got to break the surface. The surface has to be broken all the time in order to let the oxygen into the tank. So the bacteria can use the oxygen to break the waste down. And so the fish get oxygen. So we can now see there's very good surface agitation on the top of the tank, which is exactly what I'm looking for. And the setting, so there's basically a few different settings that you can set this on. But because of this tank, I want it on full and I want it on constantly on. Now there's double-sided tape on the back, which means once the electrician's been here and it's all been kneaded up, we should be able to stick that on somewhere, get it out of the way, and all look nice and neat and intentional.